Take your suitcase and your drama and leave. Tonight. Mom didn't even look at me when she said it, just folded a dish towel like she was packing away the last of her patience. Dad added, "You've humiliated us enough." And my cousin Lila, sweet trembling Lila, stood behind them with wet eyes and a voice soft as bandages. "I'm sorry, I had to tell the truth." The word truth scraped my ribs. I felt the kind of loneliness that buzzes in your teeth, the kind that makes a hallway feel a mile long, the kind that turns your own name into something strangers pronounce. "Hi everyone, my name is Marlo Jane Pierce, I'm 27. If you've ever stood in a house that raised you and felt it shrink around you like a shirt that doesn't fit, if you've ever been measured by a rumor, then you already know the way the air can become a courtroom. You already know how the verdict lands before you say a word." I set my suitcase by the door. The porch light outside kept flickering, on, off, on, like a wounded heartbeat. Dad's shirt had a smear of ketchup shaped like a comma, as if his sentence about me wasn't finished. "Thought say it. Say you believe me." But the room smelled like boiled rice and lemon cleaner and the kind of silence people use when they don't want to listen. Lila's story had arrived like a thunderclap at Sunday dinner. Whispers about what I did, a screenshot waved like scripture, my aunt's hand to her chest, the word disgrace tossed onto the table between the beans and the salt. I tried to speak. They shook their heads like my voice was weather they had already decided to ignore. Shame travels faster than breath. By dessert I was the cautionary tale. "Keys," Mom said, open palm. I placed them there, warm from my pocket. Her fingers closed as if over something poisonous. Outside, the neighborhood hummed its ordinary night. Sprinklers ticking, a television laugh track drifting from next door, a dog collar jingling down the block. I rolled my suitcase across the porch boards that groaned where Dad never fixed them. The porch light sputtered again, painting everything in broken gold. I could see us in the window like a family in a snow globe someone had shaken too hard. Mom's tight mouth, Dad's stiff shoulders, Lila a pale blur. At the mat, I crouched to straighten the corner like I always did when I was a kid, a small, useless habit for making things neat. The spare key had lived beneath that mat since forever. Safety, ritual, home. Only now the key was gone. In its place lay a single glittering bobby pin, Lila's kind, the exact rose gold shade she wore pressed into her hair that morning. The porch light blinked twice, then held steady, bright and merciless. And somewhere between the boards and my lungs, a truth I couldn't prove yet opened its eyes. The night I left, the moon was sharp enough to cut glass. I walked for miles before a friend's porch light became my only destination. Inside, her mother handed me cocoa like I was a child who'd lost her way in a supermarket. No one asked questions, but every kindness felt like salt, because kindness only finds you when you've already been thrown out. For weeks, I scrolled through family group chats just to see the word seen next to my messages. Then nothing. They had deleted me as easily as clearing a notification. Lila's lie, whatever shape she'd carved it into, became their gospel. She told them I'd stolen money from Mom's business fund to pay for my rent. She said she caught me transferring it late at night. She had screenshots, doctored with dates that only she could have faked. I tried to explain that I was auditing her spreadsheets that day, not stealing, but my voice had already been voted out of the room. The landlord threatened eviction. I sold my jewelry, learned to live on coffee and canned soup, and took any freelance job that kept the lights dimly alive. At night, I'd replay that last dinner like a scene trapped on loop. Dad's sigh, Mom's pressed lips, Lila's trembling act. I could almost hear her whisper, "I didn't want to, but she forced my hand." I remember standing at a bus stop one morning when my reflection in the glass looked like someone halfway erased. And yet, in that emptiness, I found something fierce. If they could throw me away this easily, maybe I didn't need to beg to be picked up again. So I built a new version of myself. Slowly, silently. I worked at a startup, learned coding, saved until my account number felt like a secret weapon. I stopped checking the old family chat. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never arrive. But sometimes when the night smelled of lemon cleaner and rain, I'd see Lila's bobby pin glinting in my memory like a small, sharp promise. Years later, that promise came knocking. Unexpected, polite, and wrapped in an envelope bearing my parents' return address. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days before I dared to open it. It looked too formal, white, heavy, my mother's handwriting painfully neat, as if every letter carried restraint. When I finally slid my finger under the seal, a scent of lavender soap drifted out, faint but unmistakable. Home. Inside was a wedding invitation. Lila's. Her name curved across the gold foil like victory itself. And below, in smaller print, hosted lovingly by Mr. and Mrs. Pierce. My parents. I stared at it for a long time, the room spinning with the echo of that night when I was told to leave. The invitation wasn't kindness. It was a parade of selective memory. They were pretending nothing happened. That I hadn't slept on couches or skipped meals or sent birthday texts that went unanswered. I almost threw it away. Almost. But something about that embossed paper stopped me. It wasn't forgiveness that flickered inside me, it was curiosity. So I went. The church smelled of lilies and perfume, the kind that made your throat tighten. Everyone smiled like they were part of some glossy magazine shoot about perfect families. When Mom saw me walk in, her jaw trembled, but she didn't look away. Dad's hand tightened on the pew. And Lila, oh Lila, froze in her lace gown mid-laughter, her eyes darting toward me like I was a ghost interrupting her fantasy. I didn't speak. I simply took a seat in the last row. I watched her glide down the aisle, veil floating like a lie finally finding its altar. During the vows she stumbled over a line, just one, but it was enough to make her voice crack. People thought it was emotion. I knew better. After the ceremony, Mom approached me near the garden arch, her eyes damp. Marlo, it's been years. You look strong. I smiled softly. Years tend to do that. She hesitated. There are things you don't know. About Lila. About that night. Her voice broke slightly, just enough for me to feel a storm shifting beneath the lace and laughter. And for the first time I wondered, was my mother about to confess something I had waited years to hear? Mom's voice trembled like a confession trapped between guilt and fear. Lila wasn't supposed to say those things, she whispered, her eyes darting toward the reception tent. Your father and I, we were told you'd taken money. But Lila, she was the one managing the books. My chest tightened. Are you saying she lied? Mom's silence said everything. Her fingers twisted the edge of her shawl like she was wringing out years of regret. Your aunt found inconsistencies later, after you left. But by then Lila was engaged to Charles. It would have ruined everything. Ruined everything. That was their excuse, for destroying me. Lila's laughter carried over the music, high and artificial. She looked radiant under the fairy lights, a champagne flute in her hand, surrounded by people who never knew her truth. I watched her pose for photos beside my father, who still avoided my eyes. It was like watching a play where I was both audience and ghost. Mom stepped closer. We didn't know how to fix it without reopening old wounds. I almost laughed. You mean without admitting you were wrong? Her eyes shimmered. We hoped time would heal it. But time doesn't heal betrayal. It preserves it, like frost over a flower, keeping it beautiful and dead. I turned toward the buffet table where a photographer snapped candids. Lila's purse lay open on the white cloth, her phone screen glowing faintly. Reflex made me glance. And there, in the group chat labeled family, was a recent message from her. She actually showed up. Watch her try to play victim again. Something inside me went still. I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I smiled as the photographer pointed the camera my way. I tilted my chin toward the light. If she wanted to see me as the villain, I'd let her. Because now I had proof, not just of the past but of her present cruelty. Later that night when I got home, I transferred the invitation, her chat screenshot, and a few other things into a new folder on my laptop titled The Truth. For the first time in years, my hands didn't shake. The story she built around me was about to collapse. Brick by brick, post by post. For weeks after the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in my apartment felt amplified. The ticking clock, the hum of the fridge, the faint sirens outside. Betrayal has a way of echoing even in silence. But this time it wasn't pain that kept me awake. It was clarity. Lila had always been a strategist. She didn't just lie, she curated narratives. So if I wanted the truth to rise, it had to be done the same way. Carefully, publicly, and irrevocably. I started by reaching out to Mom's accountant friend, Mr. Holbrook, the one who had quietly managed the business after I left. I told him I was doing a financial case study on small family ventures. He didn't suspect a thing. When I asked about historical discrepancies, his tone changed. Funny you mention that, he said. Your cousin was under review back in 2019 for misallocated funds, but the family chose to handle it internally. I asked for the report. He hesitated but sent it. A scanned PDF with rows of missing transactions and altered entries. Lila had rerouted nearly $40,000 to her own account. She even labeled one expense under my name. The timestamps lined up exactly with the week she'd accused me. I printed the report, pinned it beside the wedding photo I'd torn from the newspaper, and stared at them side by side. The contrast was obscene. One image glowing with fake virtue, the other whispering numbers that could ruin her facade. But revenge wasn't about ruin. Not for me. It was about revelation. I created a blog under my middle name, Jane P., dedicated to financial truth in family-run businesses. The first post was titled, "When Loyalty Costs You Your Home." It didn't name anyone. It just told a story of betrayal, numbers, and silence. The screenshots were anonymized, but the details were razor-precise, too sharp for the guilty to ignore. Within 3 days, it had 20,000 reads. A week later, local business pages began quoting it. One morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number. "You think you're clever, don't you? Take it down. Now." No name. But I didn't need one. Only one person ever used that tone on me, and this time she sounded afraid. I stared at the message, the cursor blinking like a pulse beside it. "Take it down." The words were pure panic dressed as authority. I didn't reply. Instead, I saved the number as "Ghost from the Past." By the next morning, the blog had doubled in traffic. People weren't just reading, they were sharing. Anonymous comments flooded in. "Same thing happened to me. Family betrayal hurts worse than theft. Tell your story, Jane. Don't stop." Each message strengthened something inside me that had once been broken. I started sleeping better, breathing slower. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't shouting into silence. Then came the phone call. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer, until the second ring brought back a voice I hadn't heard since the night I was disowned. Marlowe. It was Dad. There was weight in his tone, like gravel dragged across regret. "Your mother showed me that website. It's about us, isn't it?" My throat tightened. "If you have to ask, then maybe it should have been about you." He sighed heavily. "Lila's marriage is falling apart because of this. Her husband's family saw the post and started asking questions. You've made your point. Can't you let it go?" The audacity made me laugh quietly. "You exiled me for something I didn't do, and now you're asking for mercy because the truth finally caught up?" "I'm asking for peace," he said. "Peace doesn't come from pretending," I replied. He didn't answer right away. Then softly, "Your mother cries every night. She misses you." I wanted that to move me, but it didn't. Not fully. Because the only tears I remembered were mine, cold on the night they turned me away. After we hung up, I received another message, this time from an unknown email. Subject line, "We need to talk. In person." It was signed Lila. And beneath her name she added one chilling sentence. "If you don't meet me, I'll make sure everyone sees the real version of what happened." The word real pulsed through me like static. She wasn't done lying, she was cornered. And cornered people can be dangerous. I met her in the same cafe where we'd once shared milkshakes as teenagers. The place that smelled of cinnamon and nostalgia. She was already there when I arrived, sunglasses perched on her head, hands clasped tightly around her latte as if it were keeping her alive. "Wow," she said, forcing a smile. "You actually came." I sat down slowly. "You said you had something to tell me." She leaned forward, whispering like someone performing sincerity. "You don't understand, Marlowe. That night, the accusation, it wasn't supposed to go that far. Aunt Judy found the missing funds and threatened to tell everyone. I panicked. You were the only one who could take the fall without consequences." "Without consequences," I repeated softly. "You destroyed my life because I was safe to blame." She flinched. "I was young. Stupid." I studied her face. Beneath the perfect makeup there were cracks. Fear, guilt, maybe even envy. "You're not here to apologize," I said quietly. "You're here to bargain." Her voice dropped. "Charles's company is auditing our finances. They connect the dots, everything collapses. Please, delete the post. I'll pay you." There was the same arrogance wrapped in desperation. I almost pitied her. Almost. "I don't need your money," I said. "I needed truth. But you wouldn't give that even if it saved you." Her jaw tightened. "You think you're so righteous. But if you keep this up, you'll destroy Mom and Dad too. They're already drowning in shame." I leaned in, eyes steady. They drowned me first. For a long moment neither of us spoke. Outside, rain streaked the window, turning the world into soft watercolor smudges. Finally, she whispered, "You wouldn't dare expose me fully." I smiled faintly. "You taught me how to survive a lie. Now I'll teach you how to live with truth." When I stood up to leave, she grabbed my wrist. "Please, don't ruin me." I looked down at her hand trembling against mine, and said the most honest thing I'd ever spoken to her. "You did that yourself." Outside, the rain stopped. A sliver of light cut through the clouds like the start of something I hadn't felt in years. Peace sharpened by purpose. 2 weeks later, the truth finally found its own voice. I didn't plan the timing. It just happened the way truth always does. Quietly, then all at once. A journalist from a local business magazine emailed me, asking to interview Jane P. about her viral post on family fraud and forgiveness. I agreed on one condition: no names. Just facts. When the article went live, it spread like fire under rain. The headline read, "Betrayed by Blood, When Lies Rewrite Family Ledgers." No one had to guess who it was about. Every detail fit our family's timeline. The public did what I could not: they connected the dots. Within days, Charles's company froze Lila's joint accounts and launched an internal audit. The same numbers she'd used to frame me now stood like witnesses against her. Mom called again, voice thin as paper. "She's fallen apart," she whispered. "She says you've destroyed her." I closed my eyes. "I didn't destroy her, Mom. I just stopped protecting the story that did." There was a pause so long I could hear her breathing. Then quietly she said, "We should have believed you." The words didn't erase years of pain, but they landed like a balm on a scar. A week later, a small box arrived at my doorstep. Inside was my childhood photo. Me at 9, smiling with a missing tooth, and beneath it the rose gold bobby pin I'd found on the porch years ago. A note was tucked underneath in Mom's handwriting. "You were never the shame of this family." We were. I sat on the floor for a long time, the sunlight slanting through the curtains, painting the room in warm stripes of gold. For the first time in forever, the silence felt gentle. I didn't seek revenge anymore. I didn't need their apologies to breathe. I just needed to know that the truth had finally stood on its own 2 feet, and that I was still standing too. That night, I walked out to the porch, held the bobby pin up to the light, and let it fall into the grass. The moon caught it once before it disappeared. Not as evidence. Not as anger. Just as release.